Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Today's video is a timeline, a comprehensive timeline that I put together that I think you'll find very interesting and how everything seems to line up. All right, so this is really just the day of the 13th, the day that the girls were killed, and then into the early morning hours of the day that they were found, but I don't go into them being found as that isn't really as significant of a time frame in terms of what happened that day. Now, at 12:15 p.m., Bree Wilbur and her three friends were right here at the Freedom Bridge, and they headed towards the Monenhigh Bridge, meaning they walked this direction all the way down the trail, and then eventually at 12:43, which is much longer than it actually takes to walk there, so who knows where if they just kind of walked slowly or chatted, or if they were at the bridge for a while. But they got to the start of the Monenhigh Bridge at 12:43. Bree Wilbur and her three friends were at the Monenhigh Bridge and took a picture. They did not see the bridge guy during this entire time, so from 12:15 till 12:43 they did not see him. But according to Richard Allen's second story, he originally said 1 to 3 to Dan Doolin and then adjusted it during that conversation and said 1:30 to 3:30. So I guess it's really his third version. So when he was brought in for questioning, he changed the time frame to be exactly outside of that time frame. So he switched it from 12 to 1:30. So given the 12 to 1:30 time frame, he's claiming he got there and he passed three girls and he went to the bridge to look at fish. Well, these girls virtually clear that time frame too, because they were at the Freedom Bridge at 12:15, and then they make it to the start of the Monenhigh Bridge at 12:43. They're taking pictures. They don't see the Richard Allen bridge guy. Then they walk back this way, and eventually they make it to a bench. But before we get there, at 1:16 p.m., I believe Richard Allen leaves his house and he heads to the High Bridge Trails. Now, the way I think Richard Allen went was from here, and then he goes to 400, I think it's North 400 West right here, and then he gets on to 300 and drives around in that direction. Now, I actually have the time it would take right here on this map. So there's the route that I have, and it takes maybe 11 minutes. So about 1:16 he takes off, drives this direction, comes around, passes the cemetery, passes the Mears property, and then at about 1:27 he passes the Hoosier Harvest Store. And we see that right here. So at 1:16 p.m. Richard Allen leaves his house, and he's now heading to the High Bridge. Then at 1:26 p.m., those same four girls are at a bench right here. Actually, there's a bench there, and there's also a bench here. I think it's this bench at 1:26. Then they start heading out in this direction. And then at 1:27:35, Richard Allen, who had left his house at 1:16, drives by the Hoosier Harvest Store right here, the black Ford Focus with specific wheels, drives by and parks right here at the abandoned CPS building. And he drives by the Hoosier Harvest Store at 1:27:35, so likely got here at like 1:28, maybe got out of his car by 1:29, walks this direction, and then let's see, at 1:31 p.m., the other note that I have in here is from 1:31 p.m. to 2:08, Libby's phone travels 707 meters or 1,682 steps. Now, here's the thing. From where the girls were dropped off, right here, this track from the parking area to platform 3, which is right there, that picture was taken around 2:07. So 2:08, they would be right in the same area, basically. That's only 613 meters. Now, let's just say they walked 630 meters because they're not walking in a perfectly straight line. And so that means that for a portion of that, 1:31, Libby's phone was moving over at the house of Mike and Becky. So that's where they lived. And they didn't leave the house until, 1:38, 1:39. So some of those steps are them at home. And apparently when a car is moving, there's no more steps being calculated. All right, so 1:31 to 2:08, that's when those steps occur. Then at 1:33 p.m., that's when Richard Allen passes the 4 girls right here. He only remembers seeing 3 of them. And one of the girls said it was a warmer day and he was dressed in many layers and had a heavy jacket on. He was walking with a purpose, like he knew where he was going. And then at 1:37 p.m., approximate time, Kelsey, Libby, and Abby left the house. That's when that is. That's about when they left, about 1:37. Then at 1:38 p.m., Kelsey called her then boyfriend. So this is about the time she's getting into the vehicle. And then at 1:38 and 49 seconds, I believe they're already moving at this point. And at 1:38 and 49 seconds, Libby called her father. So I believe she even called while they were driving, and she had him listed as Daddy-O in her contact information. And this call lasted for 35 seconds. Libby asked her father to pick them up in a few hours. And during this phone call at 1:39:08, the phone registers that it's being charged. And then at 1:39 and 24 seconds, that is when the phone call ended with Daddy-O, aka Derek German. Then at 1:39:30 p.m., there is another interaction with messaging app. Now, is that Snapchat? We don't know. But it's 1:39 and 30 seconds. Then just 15 seconds later, she does a Snapchat viewing. And I think this is perhaps when Libby saw that Bree and her friends were at the Monenhigh Bridge and messaged her and asked Bree if they were still at the bridge. Bree told Libby they had left about 10 minutes ago. So if this is at 1:39 when Libby messages Bree, and they were right here at 1:26, so that would mean approximately like 1:28, 1:29 is 10 minutes ago. So they are just about here at the Freedom Bridge. They're actually past this section right here. So what I think is when they passed Richard Allen, they sort of hung out here on the Freedom Bridge. So I think when they got the text from Libby, they were just right here at the Freedom Bridge. And she said they left about 10 minutes ago. All right. And 10 minutes ago would have been around 1:29. And so I think that's how that worked out. And then at 1:44 p.m., Libby posted a picture to Snapchat. So again, this is when they're driving. They had only left the house about 3 minutes before this. Libby posted a picture to Snapchat, sticking her tongue out, and she's sitting in the passenger seat. And then at 1:49 p.m., she posted a picture of herself to Snapchat, smiling from the front passenger seat as well. You can see Abby in the background with a blank expression. And then at 1:44 p.m. approximately is when Richard Allen reaches the Monenhigh Bridge. So after Richard Allen had passed the 3 girls right here, he walks this direction and makes his way to the Monenhigh Bridge and gets here at 1:44. And then also at approximately 1:44 p.m., Betsy Blair drives underneath the Old State Road 25 right here while the 4 girls are walking across. Now we have Betsy Blair's time frame information here. Right here in this picture, you can see that Betsy Blair is right here, just about to go underneath the Old State Road 25 bridge, drive around and make her way, and when she passes the Hoosier Harvest Store, it would take 2 minutes. So that would mean about 1:44 going underneath, then 2 minutes later at 1:46, she passes the Hoosier Harvest Store. And it says, Betsy Blair drives by the Hoosier Harvest Store on her way to park across from the Mears farm. She had just used the bathroom at the Delphi Library and was going back to the trails to finish her third loop, her exercise loop. She parked her car and headed to the Monon High Bridge. Now, just as a point of reference, Betsy Blair's normal loop would be to park right here across from the Mears property, walk to the Monon High Bridge, then come back this direction, and then go down the 505 trail partially, then back up, then go to the Freedom Bridge, and then back this direction to her vehicle. That would constitute a loop. All right, so that was around 1:46. She got there. Then 1:49 p.m., Kelsey drives by the Hoosier Harvest Store. And that drive takes about 10 minutes or so. So let's show that information. Here's a route that Kelsey, I believe, took. It might have been one similar to this. But if you look at it, it takes 11 minutes. So they leave at like 1:38, and then get there at 1:49. Now, they could have left the home, 1:37-ish. It just depends how long Kelsey, after she parked her car here, how long she waited for the girls to get out and walk over here. But at 1:49, she passes the Hoosier Harvest Store right here. And then at 1:53 p.m., Betsy Blair arrives at the Monon High Bridge. So after Richard Allen got here, a.k.a. Bridge Guy, at 1:44, Betsy Blair got there 9 minutes later. The walk from here to here is about 6 minutes. So if Richard Allen at 1:44 started walking back this way, it would be 1:50 by the time he got to here. But Betsy Blair was already on the trails. So she got to the bridge at 1:53. Then at 1:56, after Betsy Blair turned around at the barricade, she passes AbbyandLibby. And I have the name Sue because I wasn't using her real name before the trial. And she passes AbbyandLibby at about 1:56 or 1:57. And then AbbyandLibby, who were walking much slower because they're just whimsically playing, they're not doing any, exercising really, they're just there to take pictures and have fun. They walk this direction, and then about 2 o'clock to 2:01, they make it right here to the start of the bridge, likely seeing Richard Allen, a.k.a. Bridge Guy, and I believe Richard Allen then walked back here a little bit and watched and waited, and then he could see both directions to see if anybody was coming. He already knew because he was there for 9 or 10 minutes, even all the way up to about 16 minutes by the time AbbyandLibby got there. He knew at that point that there was nobody else on the other side of the bridge. And so then at 2:02 p.m., right around the same time, so almost right when the girls got to the bridge right here, a guy named Brad Weber is leaving the Subaru office in Lafayette over here. And when we take a look at Brad Weber's route, it is a 21.7 mile drive. They say that without traffic, you could do it in 28 minutes. And so when he got off at 2:02, there's likely very little traffic. I think that somebody living there could easily do it in 20 to 25 minutes, because 28 minutes to drive 21 miles would be like you're going 45 miles an hour the entire time. I'm just estimating, taking a guess there. But somebody that lives in the area could probably drive 55, 60 the whole time, basically, and he would get there in 21, 22, 23, 24 minutes, something like that. Even up to 25 minutes. All right, so we just take a look at that, and then, so that was Brad Weber's route, but he left at 2:02. And then at 2:05:20, a Snapchat picture of the bridge with no people on it. All right, so that means after AbbyandLibby got here at 2 o'clock or 2:01, something like that, they then walked out to pass platform 2. Now, there's a lot of reporters out there that don't have a clue what they're looking at, and they've reported that at the beginning of the bridge, they took a photograph of the whole length of the bridge, and that's just not true. They had already walked past platform 1, past platform 2, and took a picture at 2:05 and 20 seconds. And it's a Snapchat picture of the bridge. And then at 2:07, another instance happened with the phone, but let's just show this picture. This is the full-length shot of the bridge. This little railroad tie right here, the damage there, and this little vine, we were able to find that exact spot because I had some friends go out to the bridge in early March after the murders. And now we have some new information at 2:07, the last time the phone was unlocked. And likely it was unlocked to take a picture of Abby back towards the northwest. And here is that picture. So this is off of platform 3. The previous photograph that we just saw was taken right back here, facing back behind us in this picture. And then Abby is right here. She's like 13 feet away from platform 3 when that photograph was taken. Then at from 2:08 to 2:18, there were 414 meters walked on, Libby's phone detected 414 meters. All right, now we'll revisit what that means here in a moment. And then at 2:10 p.m., a person named Terry Wilson was driving by on Highway 25 here and looked over and saw a vehicle parked at the abandoned CPS building. Then at 2:13 p.m., after those photographs, etc., Abby and Libby make it to the end of the bridge, but Libby's off the end of the bridge first at around 2:13. And then 2:13 and 57 seconds, Libby films Richard Allen, aka Bridge Guy, for 43 seconds. And then at 2:14 and 40 seconds, the video stopped recording. Right? So that's right after the video stopped recording, that's when they're going down the hill. Just before that, you hear the down the hill, then her video stopped recording. And then interestingly, at 1 second after her video stopped recording, Libby tried to unlock the phone with her fingerprint. Now that's pretty interesting right there. Was that her trying to reactivate the phone? Did it somehow accidentally get shut off and she didn't want it to be that way and she tried to activate it again and get it going, but just didn't want to risk it after that point? Man, that's crazy. And then at 2:18 p.m. to 2:25 p.m., there are no movements on the phone. So let's revisit this 2:08 to 2:18, 414 meters. Now, the 2:08 location is likely right here next to platform 3. And we already kind of walked it out like this. Go to the other side of the bridge and then down the hill and then across. And, we don't know exactly what route, etc. But I have that map right there has us at, if we use meters, 385 meters. They said it went 414. I mean, that's pretty damn close. You got to admit. That's pretty close. Now, did they walk over here for a second and over there like that? A couple little jogs here and there. I believe they were taken back to this far corner here. That's how that works with the, the map. You go over here and then you're right in this back corner here. And I think that what we determined there was, the video stopped recording at 2:14 and 40 seconds. Libby tried to unlock it, and then in 2:18 to 2:25, they're right back in this corner, and this is when Richard Allen was trying to assault them. And then around this very same time, Brad Weber, who had left work at 2:02, 23 minutes later, Brad Weber would be driving on the private drive near the southeast end of the Monon High Bridge. So he'd be driving by right here. Richard Allen looks up and then takes the girls across the creek. At 2:28 p.m., a person named Wesley McWhirter was heading east by the Hoosier Harvest Store right over here, driving this direction, and he too also saw a vehicle parked at the abandoned CPS building. You know, it's just sad to think that when these guys are driving by, they're driving by up here, and then just down below in this area, Abby and Libby are, you know, not too long from being killed by the psychopath Richard Allen. Then at 2:31 p.m., the phone climbs 2 floors. All right, but let's go back up to here. From 2:25 to 2:32, so right after the phone had stopped, remember how we had it stopping from 2:18 to 2:25? From 2:25 to 2:32, it takes 66 steps or 50.64 meters. Now, sometimes the phone doesn't determine that it's somebody's walking, so perhaps it was carried a little bit to right there, because if you go from right here to right in this area, you get 50.8 meters. And then, amazingly, as we were just saying, at 2:31, so you got to remember, it is 2:25 to 2:32, it moved 66 steps, but in the last minute of it, it also went up 2 floors. So we have images out there that show that there's a man that's very high up on a bank, and that would show that maybe at that point it showed 2 level changes. So if it goes up 11 or 12 feet, maybe it does 2 floors, because it's not exact, right? And here's the picture. There's a guy, you know, he's probably back a little bit, so he's not quite as small as that. But if you look how high that bank is. And that's exactly where they would have been at 2:31, climbing up that bank. All right, so let's keep moving along here. And that they registered a 2-floor elevation change. And then at 2:32 p.m., Apple Health app records its last movements. And then at 2:33 p.m., the screen turns off. All right, now there's a guy named David McCain who says he doesn't know exactly, but he went to the trails around between 2 o'clock and 2:50 p.m. Now, I put 2:50 p.m. because we know that Cheyenne got there at 2:50, and David McCain was already there when Cheyenne got there. So David McCain arrives at the trails and parks at the Mears entrance, and there was no other cars, right? So when David McCain got here, Betsy Blair had already left at 2:14, so when he got here, there was nobody there at all. So he parks his car, and, you know, David McCain, you know, has been on the trails many times as a child, and he started planning to develop the trails in 2013. He has walked the bridge many times. On that day, McCain only walked to the beginning of the bridge. He used a camera to take pictures of the day, you know, so he didn't go out, he didn't use his phone to take pictures, he used an actual camera. And then at 2:50 p.m., Cheyenne Mill arrived at the trails and spotted an overweight man who did not say hi back to her when walking near the high bridge. This man was David McCain. Then at 3:11 p.m., Derek German, Libby and Kelsey's father, drives over the Wilson Bridge, coming back from Frankfort, Indiana, taking pictures for Becky's appraisal business. He tries calling Libby, but he doesn't answer. So, you know, he comes back from Frankfort. Frankfort's way down here. I think it's, yeah, right here. There's Frankfort. So he was taking pictures, and then when he drives back, he comes all the way up here and goes over the Wilson Bridge, and then he makes his way here, drives by the cemetery, and makes another phone call at 3:14 right here. But let me show you some information. When Cheyenne got there at 2:50 and walked around, she took multiple pictures out there. So she took this picture, and that is off of platform 2. And there's the barricade in the background. You can see right there. That's where Betsy Blair actually stopped, and Richard Allen would be standing on this platform. So she was quite a ways back behind him. So that's one of the pictures. And then here's another picture she took on the far end of the bridge off of platform 5. All right, so if we were going up in the air, we'd look at it and we'd say that platform 5 is right here. Okay, that's platform 6. So Cheyenne made it at least to this portion of the bridge when she took that photograph. And then here's her off of platform 3 with her friend, and the friend's headed back towards the start of the bridge. The far end of the bridge where Abby and Libby were abducted from is at the far end in the background over there. But this is one of Cheyenne's friends that was with her on that day. Isn't it creepy to see that this video, these images right here, at the moment these are taken, it's possible that Abby and Libby are still alive, but likely they were already killed, but it's right around that exact time. It's pretty crazy. All right, so then, like I said before, at 3:14 p.m., Derek arrives at the parking spot across from the Mears farm and calls Libby, and she doesn't answer. So again, he drives right up here, Derek does, pulls in there. So when he pulls in, at this point, there should be 2 other vehicles minimum. So you'd have David McCain, you'd have Cheyenne, and now his car pulls in there, and now there's 3 vehicles minimum. There might have been somebody else there at that point at this time. And then at 3:16 to 3:29 p.m., David McCain sees Derek. So sometime in between 3:16 and 3:29, David McCain sees Derek Sherman in a bright orange jacket yelling, have you seen my girls? And then at 3:30 p.m., Derek was still getting no answers from Libby. Then at 3:30 to 4 p.m., Derek walks to the Freedom Bridge and back to his vehicle, and I think that's when Tara is there and gets into the car with him. And apparently Cheyenne's leaving around this time and sees Derek in the car with somebody. And then at 3:57 p.m., Sarah Carbaugh, this is right around that time, Sarah Carbaugh drives east by the Hoosier Harvest Store and passes people getting ready to search for Abby and Libby. And there you go. That's Tara and the other people, and the parking area is really getting filled here. So that portion of Sarah Carbaugh's story is absolutely legit. She also claims to have driven by the bridge guy, a.k.a. Richard Allen, who was muddy and bloody just after passing the Hoosier Harvest Store and the parking area here. Then at 4 p.m., approximately, David McCain leaves the trails, and he didn't see a muddy and bloody person because it was after that. It was 4 p.m. or later. He went back to his vehicle across from the Mears, so he makes his way back to his car right here. He was surprised at how many vehicles were there, and that's similar to what Sarah Carbaugh observed. So it gives a little bit more credibility to her story. Around that same time at 4 p.m., Kelsey learned that her sister was missing. And then at 4:06 p.m., as the girl's family members began their frantic search, Libby's grandmother sent a text message to Libby that was followed by multiple exclamation points. You need to call me now, Becky Patty texted. And then between 4 and 4:30 p.m., Mike normally gets off of work, he stated. But at 5:15 p.m., Mike parked at the Mears property, according to Becky. At 5:15 p.m., Deputy Mitch Catrone stated he talked to Brad Weber, who is the son of Kay Weber. Now, it sounds like at 5:15 he shows up to the area. Now, I'm wondering if that's the deputy that Mike Patty knew, and so they kind of showed up around the same time. Catrone searched Weber's property but didn't look inside 2 of the buildings. Weber was not covered in sweat, not covered in blood, and didn't look disheveled. Then at 5:20 p.m., police were called. That's when Becky called the police. At 5:44 p.m., the iPhone 6 indicated a headphone was plugged in. Okay, now we know that moisture and a little bit of debris or anything like that could cause connectivity inside the phone jack and make it look like something was plugged into it. Then at 7:01 p.m., Delphi Fire Chief Daryl Sterrett notified of the missing girls. And then at 7:10, he left to go to the Unified Command. Then at 9:30 or 10 p.m., Daryl Sterrett, he took a crew of 6 people with him to search the trails for the girls. Sterrett took his personal vehicle, and the volunteers took 2 fire trucks. He ordered crews to search north, south, east, and west of the bridge. Then at 10 p.m., Derek returned to the trails, searched by the ravine south of the cemetery. It was pitch black. So I thought that was an interesting element. I didn't really realize that. So the ravine south of the cemetery is right here. Now, I don't know if that's a misquoted piece of information or something that was inaccurately reported, but it is saying in one of the articles out there, I think it might have been Wish TV, or it was the Delphi Daily Comet or something like that, that he returned to the trails and he searched by the ravine south of the cemetery. So, I mean, that's right there. So when he was searching that night when it was pitch black outside, he's not too far away from the crime scene. Then 10:32 p.m., February 13th, 2017, to 4:33 a.m. on February 14th, Libby's phone stopped receiving notifications, and then right around 4:33 a.m., 20 SMS text messages notifications came in. And then at 10:32 p.m., cell phone showed headphone was unplugged. So it's interesting. It's almost like what was inside the phone jack kind of locked up the phone, although I don't know. It's weird how it stopped receiving at the same time that the cell phone headphone was unplugged. Then at 2 a.m., police ended, that's on the 14th, they ended their search, according to Steve Mullen, who is the current investigator, but at the time was the Delphi police chief. Then at 2:30 a.m., February 14th, Sterrett left the scene. And then 4:34 a.m., February 14th, was the last signal from Libby's phone. All right, so man, such interesting information. It all really lines up almost perfectly. We're missing like 30 meters in here, but those walking apps aren't really that accurate. The way I've always thought it was this is the area that the assault was going to take place. So when you look at it like, wow, and that from 25 to 32, it actually goes up in the last minute 2 floors. That absolutely matches that perfectly. It's almost unbelievable. All right, so in the comments section, let me know if there's anything that you find interesting. Could you hit that like button for me right now? That would be great. Seems like people like my videos, they watch them, and then they're not hitting the like button. So I really need you to hit the like button to help me out in the algorithm so more people can see my videos, all right? So I hope you guys found this as interesting as I did. It took a long time to go out and find all these pieces of information. Maybe if I find more, I'll add it to it. Perhaps do another one of these at some point. But man, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what portion you thought was the most interesting. And let me know if you know of some more time frame information that I'm missing. I'd love to put it into my text document over here. And so thank you all very much for watching. And as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there.